back to my channel, and if you are new, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about something I have never actually went fully in depth about, for a good reason. It's not, my best moment, not something that my mom goes around bragging to her friends about, but I do feel like it is important to share because I do know I do have a lot of younger viewers out there, and don't do it. This is the story that you show your kids and you're like, look, I was dumb as fuck, do not copy what I did. But it is the story of how I ran away and came back pregnant at 17 years old. Even saying that, just, oh, the cringe. It's really funny because looking at me as a whole, as like my whole childhood, I was a really good kid. I never hung out with like bad people. I didn't do drugs. I didn't go to parties. I didn't, drink. I never snuck out. I never, if my mom didn't want me hanging out with a certain person, I didn't hang out with them, and so on and so forth. I had good grades majority of the time, and I don't know, I would say, a pretty good kid until I hit 17, and then I was like, fuck it, we're gonna be rebellious. My poor mom, dude, like, she's used to this like good little nerdy kid, and then all of a sudden I'm going big or going home. Like, I'm just like, nope, I'm gonna run away and I'm gonna get pregnant. I'm just gonna jump right into the story. I do have to let you guys know kind of like a backstory of it. Me and my mom were very close growing up. My mom was a single mother and I am an only child. To be completely honest with you guys, we were more like sisters. And I don't think it helped that we were like the same people as well, because we're both incredibly stubborn. We both think that we're right, and it just doesn't click all of the time. At 17, I wouldn't say I was the smartest. The way I looked at life was like it's the principle of the matter, and that shouldn't happen because I don't deserve that. I was a very entitled child, and I guess that just comes like with maturity. You live and you learn and you grow as a person, and I'm glad to say I'm not that person anymore, but that's very much who I was at 17. If something went wrong, instead of being like the bigger person, I was like, no, I need justice. Getting into the story, I don't remember why I owed my mom money. I want to say it was my gecko, which is that, if that doesn't tell you how nerdy of a person I was, I spent $500 on a gecko, and I'm pretty sure I think my mom helped me with the purchase, and I was like, I'll pay you back when I get my last check. Some of you guys are spending lots of money on drugs. I was spending lots of money on geckos. I owed her like $60. So I got my last check in the mail. I got the cash. I brought it home. I secured the cash. I think my last paycheck was $200. I had like $200 bills. I don't know, again, exactly what we've gotten a fight about, but I know me and my mom got in a disagreement that night, and I remember leaving the house to like one of my friend's house, but it was like, okay, like my mom wasn't like, don't go to your friend's house. Like, she was like, yeah, get the fuck out of the house because I don't want to see your face either. So like, we just needed a break from each other. And so when I came back, one of the $100 bills were gone. And I was like, that's my hard-earned cash. I was very, very, very upset, and my grandma lived with us at the time, and I asked her like, hey, have you seen my money? It was in my room, and now it's like half of it is gone. And she was like, yeah, your mom took it. And I was like, what? Like, why? What? And just to explain my mindset at the time, I was upset because she took more than what I had owed her, because it was like $50 or $60, and she had taken the full $100 bill. And that is like where I was upset. She wasn't home at the time, and I'm trying to call her, and again, we were fighting that day, so she wasn't answering, and she knew I was at home because my grandma had texted my mom that like I was at home, I was safe, so she knew like, while she's safe, I'm still not going to continue the fight and answer the phone. So I waited till she got home, and I blew up. I was like, why would you go into my room? Why would you disrespect my privacy? I know, guys, I was living under her roof. I know how silly this sounds. Again, let's just remember I was 17 years old. My mom was like, I took it because I needed the money that you owed me at like the time being. I was going to give you the money back. You need to calm down. And I was like, no, it's the principle of the matter. I realized how entitled and how crazy I sound, okay? And so I was like, okay, well then give me the money back. And she was like, well, I didn't like break it yet. I don't know if she put it like in her account. I don't really remember, but she said she didn't have the money to give it back to me. And I was like, no, that's not okay. Give me my money back now. And she was like, no, like you need to calm down and have patience. You're not spending the money right now. It's fine. It just kept getting to a larger and a larger and a larger and a larger and a larger fight, and more words were said on both sides. I do want to say, I don't think my mom or I was 100% right in this situation. However, I don't think I should have overreacted to the extent that I did. I was like, well, if I can't trust you, blah, 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 I'm moving out. I packed my bags. Let's go. I left. I had a friend that did have a car because, again, I didn't have a car at this time, so he drove me to another one of our friends' house, and then we all ended up having like a sleepover at her house. Basically, my whole like runaway journey, I didn't really like live on the streets or anything like that, which is funny because like I was like, I don't care if I have to live on the streets. Girl, yes the fuck you did. You were not gonna live on the streets. Like, just looking back at like what I was saying, like anything is better than living here. Girl, know your freaking place and be grateful. And yeah, it's just funny looking back on it with the mindset that I have now. But yeah, so I went and stayed with my friend the first night, and I couldn't obviously just keep sleeping over at her house because her parents would have asked questions. I didn't want to look like a bad kid, although I was being a bad kid. So I had called up another one of my friends and was like, hey, can I stay at your house? So we're okay, party's moving over there. Not really, it wasn't a party, but then we then had a sleepover at her house. So I was dating Patrick at this time, and Patrick was with me like all throughout this, like didn't necessarily like support my decision. He thought I should have like went home, and he thought I was being silly because me and Patrick were raised very differently. He was just kind of trying to talk me to go back into living with my mom, and I was like, no, she's stealing my money. I can't do that. And I don't know what I was thinking, because you also have to think at this time I have $100 to my name. Where do you think you're gonna go, Alex? From that girl's house, I told her the situation, and she was on my side. I don't know why. She had asked her mom if I could stay, but she didn't tell her mom that I had ran away. I don't know what she told her mom, but her mom was okay for me to stay for like a few weeks. And then we're telling all our friends, like, I'm moving in with her. Little did I know, while all this was happening, my mom was actually checking in on me with my friends. My friends were not loyal. But looking back on it, I'm like, go you guys. That's awesome. They were texting my mom telling her that I was safe or where I was at. So my mom was never actually worried because she knew at all times where I was at. We had no communication. We were not talking at this time. My phone was still on at this time. Like, she was still paying my phone bill. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. I understand now. By the way, I didn't mention this, but this was during summer. So this wasn't like, I wasn't in school or anything like that at this time. So I think we lasted about like 4 days. It was going very close to being a full week, but it wasn't the full week yet. My mom eventually ended up calling my friend's mom that I was staying at and told her the situation. And my friend's mom was like, why am I getting involved in this? So she immediately was like, hey, I get that you're having a hard time at home, because I really wasn't. I was just being a brat. But she was like, but you need to go home and talk it out with your mom. And she was like, if your mom agrees to you living here, then that's fine, but we need to have that communication there. You can't just, you know, like just up and move in here. So I was like, yeah, my mom's not gonna say okay to that. So I was like, okay, on the streets, guys. I remember that day leaving with all of my stuff, and luckily it was near Patrick's house. A lot of you guys are probably wondering why I was not staying with Patrick at this time. His dad would not have allowed that. I wasn't even really allowed over at his house, so that was not really anything that we could think about. I remember being like outside of Walmart and like talking to him, because now I have all my stuff, can't be at her house. Now my mom has probably called all of my other friends' parents, and I just don't want that. I want to save my embarrassment of like trying to be like, can I spend the night? And they're like, no, we already know what's going on. So I was like, what do I do? So I just remember like hanging out outside all day. At this point, we did not know I was pregnant yet. So I remember from here, I did go home. I was not staying there. My mom actually was not at the house. I had texted my grandma and was like, hey, is my mom home? And I basically asked my grandma to tell me when my mom had left because I didn't want to fight. I just wanted a little bit more time. She was like, okay, like, coast is clear, go ahead, come. So I went to the house and I told my grandma that I was still leaving, but really in my head at this point, I was like, I kind of fucked up. I'm kind of being dumb. I should really go home. So I just kind of wanted to see, I don't know, like I wanted to test the waters out, but I had told her that I was just like switching my clothes out and just like grabbing more stuff because I'm leaving. So I think my grandma knew that that wasn't the case. I remember going to my room and I was acting like I was packing, but I really wasn't. And then at this point I was like, you know what's weird? I haven't started my period yet this entire week. So I was like, well, that's interesting. I didn't want to take the pregnancy test at my house, especially with like what was going on. If my mom saw like a pregnancy test and like I had like run away and everything like that, it just would have been a bigger shit show. So I left with Patrick, and that's when we went to Albertsons, got the test, found out I was pregnant, and then yeah, I was like, okay, now I need to stop this shit because I can't be on the streets being pregnant. At this point, when we went and did that, I noticed that my phone was off as well. And it's really funny because if you watch my first video, I mentioned how a big fear of mine was that my phone was off, and if something happened with the pregnancy and I needed to go call like 911 or whatever the case may be, that I wouldn't be able to if my phone was off. And that was really dumb because you could still call 911 whether your phone is on or off. But besides the point, we already know Alex is a dumbass throughout this entire story. We get that. I decided to actually go home, and Patrick was obviously relieved, and he was probably a little bit more pushing towards me going home more so now because I am pregnant, and that's just like, I have to be safe, and I have other things to think about now than myself and just being immature. And I told my mom, and so that's kind of like where it leads back in, and you could piece the stories back together if you watch my first video. I don't recommend it. It's even cringier than this entire story. You could see, because I was actually 17 at that time, and it's just, we don't gotta go there again, especially with the eyebrows. I do think me getting pregnant helped so much because we both were like, okay, this is serious and we need to drop this and move on and work on our relationship and just start actually getting my shit together, because I did not have my shit together when I found out I was pregnant. I'm glad to say we made it. We're here. I'm 20 now, so my son is almost 2, and it was a very, very hard journey. I don't recommend putting yourself in that situation. Use protection, guys. Patrick, the man of the story, I'm still with him. We are married now, and we are expecting our second son, who was planned, and we don't live with our parents anymore, and we made it out of there, okay? Long story short, I grew up. It's been a good ride. Moral of the story, guys, is I know it is hard to be 17, and you have all these hormones, and you can't just grow up and understand that you're gonna have stupid moments like this. You're gonna have stupid stories, but just try not to make it as stupid as what I did. That's the moral of the story. There are runaway shelters if you are in an actual terrible situation and need to get out. Do your research. There are places you could go that are safe. I did not do that. I left out of being a brat and being entitled, and just, I can't even make excuses for it. I was what I was, and I'm glad to say I'm not that person anymore. Don't be me. That is my story of how I ran away and then ended up getting pregnant. I also want to mention that just for anybody that doesn't know how conceiving a baby works and stuff, I didn't get pregnant while I ran away. Trust me, sex was the last thing on my priority list when I ran away. Definitely was pregnant while I ran away. I just didn't know I was pregnant at the time. So yeah, I just want to make that clear too. My mom was like, you ran away and got pregnant? No, Mom, trust me. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this ridiculous story. Oh yeah, to end the story as well, my mom did give me the money back, and I ended up letting her keep it for the trouble, because we ended up having a very long discussion. Again, like I said, we worked on a relationship tremendously. I ended up letting her keep that. I was like, you know what? You deserve it. Hope you guys like this video, guys. Don't do what I did. Be a better person. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.